Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feel strange. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn You guys know where to follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My @name has not changed. Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. I think that's the same thing on this Blue Sky. I haven't posted yet, but I have one. So go look me up on there. I'll start posting this week as soon as I figure out how to do it because I'm old. In the meantime, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. Also, that is the handle on Instagram and TikTok, Seahawks Man to Man. So go hit all the buttons that are required on there. We appreciate all the love and support across all of those platforms. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKID206, and that's CKid206. Also on Blue Sky as well at CKid206. How about them Seahawks, man? On the road, they improved to 4-1 on the road. Mike, how impressive have they been outside of the Lou?
Yeah, I love the Lou as the name too. Mostly just because it's fire, but also because I think isn't that like the bathroom in like the UK? I'm pretty sure it's called the Lou. Somebody calls the bathroom the Lou. Can you look that up for me? I can't think of what language or country it is, but I'm pretty sure like in London, that's what they do. It makes me think of the homie Adam. Shout out to my homie Adam. It was just his birthday last week. But yeah, is that right? It's the
LOO is a toilet. The Lou is a toilet, British. So
yeah,
England.
There we go. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, they've been really impressive, man. They have, and I think first off, I'm glad they just won. It took me forever to get out here. For a minute, I traveled for. No one cares about my travel, but I will say this: I woke up at 6:30 in the morning Saturday, and I didn't get my hotel key like put in my hand until 8:25 p.m. On Saturday. That was a lot of travel. And then while you guys are listening to this Monday, I think my flight's at 3 a.m. Pacific time, and I get home sometime in the afternoon. So lots of travel. What is cool when they win, it's great. Chris and I get to do a more positive pod. It makes more sense when we're smiling in the thumbnail for all of our social medias and YouTube stuff. So it just aligns a little bit more. And Chris, I guess because of the title of the show, we named it after Big Cat. I feel like we have to start with him in the defense, man, or just give a nod to those guys, starting with Leo, because he is having the type of impact that I feel like finally we're starting to see it from one of John Snyder's big trades, depending on how do you want to categorize Dwayne Brown in the big trade, because he was really good when he showed up. But if we were just counting like Percy, who else is a big one? Jimmy, Jamal, depending on how you feel about Sheldon Richardson, who I think they gave up a 2nd-round pick for, and Jermaine Kearse, actually. So if you look at some of those moves, and if you throw Leonard in there, I think Dwayne was a 2nd and a 3rd, I want to say. So he maybe counts in the big category, whereas Clowney and Quandre don't, and neither do Carlos Dunlap because of what they gave up. If you just look at the big swings, this finally is like, okay, John, you got one. It's looking like you got one. John Snyder, the GM. I mean, when I make that reference, because Chris, this is the last 2 weeks now. And he was really good in the Niners game too. It just kind of got overshadowed by the Geno game-winning drive. But Chris and I know the film 99 was killing the Niners too. But the last 2 weeks in particular, he's really just coming off the screen in a way you don't always see from a defensive tackle, but what you would expect to see from a defensive tackle who your team gives up a 2nd-round pick for and then gives the bag to. That combination of resource allocation necessitates these type of performances. Wow, that was a mouthful, but I got that out. That's what Leonard is doing. He has been, let's see, has he been the best player on the field the last 2 weeks? I feel like that's fair to say. Yeah, best player on the field the last 2 weeks. And that's huge. In November and December, with trying to hold on to or take first place, your highest paid defensive player has been the best player. I think he's their highest paid player, actually. No, it's Geno. But either way, their highest paid defensive player has been the best player on the field. And that's huge. You really can't ask him much more than that than Leo. I mean, it's nice to get sacks, it's nice to get TFLs, but Chris, now he's scoring touchdowns, man. Like, what are you supposed to do when this big man can run 90 whatever yards, 92 yards? He can catch the rock. First off, he can catch the rock and then run down there, sprint. I mean, what I'm watching right now, I'm in awe of what I'm seeing from Leonard. You know, he had that sack wiped away because of the unfortunate face mask. But then was like, I'll just get 2 more on the final drive. It's nothing, just winning 1-on-1. He's 4.5 sacks, I think, the last 2 weeks. A pick 6, another pass breakup, I think, on Kyler, 2 tackles for loss against the run. Like, he is just, I just can't say enough about what he's been able to do. And I think that's huge because one of the things I mentioned that's going to require the Seahawks to win a division is that their stars have to show up. Mentioned that we talked about that before, and Leonard is that, like I said, I believe he's their highest paid defensive player. He's one of their stars. He's one of their veterans. He's one of their leaders. He was a game captain today. You need this from multiple guys, but it's got to start with the highest paid dudes or the highest drafted dudes like Spoon, and both of them have played really well. And then you got J Love, who's also making a lot of money, who's playing well also. But yeah, Big Cat, he was the best player on the field again. That's so tough to do as a defensive tackle. Couldn't block him. Scored a touchdown. Chris, this is the type of stuff we kind of were hoping to see from Mike Macdonald. I talked about it on our One Big Thing about him elevating guys who aren't like, or maybe I talked about that on Standout Plays, maybe both. But either way, I recently talked about how Mike Macdonald was hired in part to elevate some of their guys who are like in the middle or like haven't been that good. But he's also supposed to get the most out of the stars. And right now he has got Leonard Williams, just playing out of his mind. And that is, without question, the reason they won this game. They don't win this game without Leonard Williams playing like that today.
Played like a madman. He was just locked in. And to do it back-to-back weeks, it's very rare that you have back-to-back weeks where you have arguably your best game ever. You know how hard that is? And I know none of you guys asked him, hey, was this your best game ever? Because just last Sunday against the Cardinals, he arguably had his best game. But to repeat it and do it again, get a touchdown as well, on top of all his big splash plays, that's just incredible. And that call by Mike Macdonald, very gutsy, but it's a game of chess. He figured if I send an all-out pressure, they love to throw slants, quick routes across the middle. If I drop one of my defensive tackles over the middle, perhaps we can get a pass breakup at best, and they settle for 3. And what does Leonard do? Gets his hand up. Sometime the ball bounces your way. The ball bounced Leonard Williams' way, and he was able to catch it and then run 90-plus yards for a touchdown. Brother needed a whole break on that next upcoming drive because he was so gassed. But that is just I love the defensive call. Just aggressive, trusting you guys to make plays, and long and behold, Leonard makes the play. And then also, Mike, I know you touched on this maybe a few years back, talking about draft picks, trades, and players. Will you step up when I need you? And the biggest one is in the fourth quarter. Are you on the field? Check. Leonard Williams on the field. Can you get some stops? Leonard had 2 sacks in that drive with 5 minutes left in the game where Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are trying to win the game. Leonard Williams comes up big. Give a little credit to Boye Mafe for making Aaron Rodgers step up on one of those plays. But what more could you ask for from Leonard? He was, again, played his best game of his career in back-to-back weeks, and that is very hard to do. But I think Mike Macdonald was just putting him in certain positions to make plays, and he alluded to that in the press conference with you guys after the game, talking about how in this defense he's finding a home here. He's finding a lot of comfort, and he is just dominating his matchups week in and week out, at least for these past 2 weeks. And it's going to be key for him to continue to do that, especially if this team wants to make a deep postseason run. I know there's a few weeks left in the season, but having Leonard playing like this will really help. And then also, I want to give love to Julian Love because he also played a really good game. It's kind of funny. Both of these dudes have kind of had good game. Well, Leonard had a great game, and Julian Love had another good game back-to-back weeks, and that's why Julian was actually Mike's player for standout plays of the week last week, because Julian was, again, he was making plays in the pass. He got a nice screen breakup. He just read it perfectly and came down and was able to stop it for no gain in the fourth quarter when the Jets need a touchdown. I thought I want to give a little love to Julian because I thought he played a really good game out there as well. And overall, the defense, man, they figured some things out. Number 29, Josh, he's going to continue to get attacked, so it's important that he gets better and learns from his mistakes that he made. Sometimes they line you up against Devontae Adams. I don't know much else you can do when you're Josh Jobe, but in those scenarios, you just got to keep grinding and live with the results, I guess, at this point. But I wanted to give love to Julian Love because I thought he played a really good game. But yeah, Big Cat, as we have as our title, the Cat game. Again, just another dominant performance. Hopefully he can continue. Can he do it 3 weeks in a row? Because they'll be playing the Arizona Cardinals, who are familiar with him. But maybe this opens up opportunities for Derek Hall to have a really big game, or a Boye Mafe, because now, obviously, with the film out, the Cardinals are going to try to double this man. They're going to make it very difficult for Leonard to have another dominant performance, but it's key for other guys to step up. And then also one more shout out to Ernest Jones, who, man, a couple of plays, he was just throwing offensive tackles out the way and getting in the back foot. I said, damn, yeah, the Seahawks, they did a really good job in getting this guy because he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And the defense as a total just shutting down the Jets in the second half. My goodness. They didn't score another offensive touchdown. How impressive is that?
I don't think they had any points in the second half, did they? No, they didn't. Yeah, it was 21-7 going into it was 21-16 going into the half. Yeah, and it ended up only being 10 points scored. Yeah, Chris, I think we're seeing it. We're seeing the Mike Macdonald defense. We're seeing it. Like you mentioned with the call, a lot of his calls. He heated up Aaron Rodgers on fourth down with the game on the line. I think the Leonard Williams pick six was a sim pressure with Leonard and Jay Reed dropping. Dropping into that slant window, like you mentioned. I think they had ran a slant earlier in the game.
They messed me up, Mike. It was a sim pressure. They only sent 4. Okay.
I don't know how many they sent. I just know that Leonard drops and Jay Reed drops. So maybe it ends up being 4. I have to watch it again. But I know they got a slant on them earlier in the game, I want to say. So that was like a nice call to drop him into the slant window. But yeah, we're seeing the Mike Macdonald defense. I mean, you look at they actually played well against the Rams, but I mean, once you get walked down in overtime, no one really cares, which makes sense. The goal is to win. No, for real, they played okay, but the goal is to win the game, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a binary game in that regard. But you look at the last 3 weeks, they gave up 17 against the Niners, gave up 6 against the Cardinals, and today gave up 14 on defense. Obviously, their kickoff return and what was an ugly special teams game, or a beautiful one, depending on how you look at it. We'll talk about that later when we get to the questions. But we're seeing it now. We're seeing Mike Macdonald's imprint on the defense. And I think we've mentioned this before, but the bye week was going to be critical for the entire team, for particularly the 2 coordinators, like Mike Macdonald and Ryan Grubb. To see how their units came out of the bye week was going to be very important. And we'll get to Grubb later. But like Macdonald's unit has came out just on fire. They came out as the better unit coming out of the break, with the self-scouting and the time to reflect and see what they're great at and try to accentuate their strengths. Mike Macdonald's done a great job of that. Their offense their defense has been killing it. The calls have been good. They've been good situationally. It pretty much takes one-on-one efforts to really move the rock on these guys, or like Trey McBride, he had some good plays against them that were really good that weren't necessarily one-on-one. But like today, the Jets weren't like out scheming them. It was like, hey, Devontae, can you win one-on-one? Yes. All right, we're going to get a first down. No, we're going to punt. Like that was kind of the offense for a little bit. Same with Garrett Wilson in some stretches. He couldn't run the ball. Brees only had 60 yards. The other dude had like 11 or something. So we're seeing it. And a lot of guys are benefiting, from Mike Macdonald right now. You mentioned Ernest, but it feels like Leonard is like oh my God. Like when they got the ball, the Jets did with like 5 and some change left, I had no faith in the Jets going down there and scoring. I was like, they can't block Leonard. It's the same way I used to feel sometimes watching the Seahawks and like against the Rams or another team, like they can't block TJ Watt, or they can't block whoever, or they can't block Aaron Donald. I was like, oh, this game's over. Can't block Nick Bosa. Like I could just feel it. The Seahawks, Leonard's playing like that, where I'm like, oh, this doesn't matter. They can't block 99. so it's a wrap. Like that was the case in the Cardinals game too when they tried to score on their second to last drive. The reason Kyler couldn't hit a wide open Trey McBride because he had Leo in his face, on second and goal. So yeah, Leonard is playing just at an elite level. And I mean, obviously, everyone listening to this probably watched the game, but Chris, I really can't overstate the timing of the pick six. Because not every defensive play is treated differently. Like Kobe's definitely swung the game for sure. I would say today maybe swung the game in an even bigger way, like on the human side of it. Maybe by EPA expected points added, Kobe's was bigger or whatever. I have to go look that up. But just the feeling and the moment, that was one of the bigger plays of the season because at that point, I believe both Laviska and D. Williams had fumbled, and they had already given up the 99-yard kickoff return touchdown. And then the Jets went right back into the red zone. Like if the Jets get any points there, even if it's just a field goal, I believe they go up 24-7 on a field goal. Yeah, they go up 24-7 on a field goal and obviously go 28-7 with a touchdown. That's gonna feel not insurmountable, but the emotions would be way different than like, oh damn, we just got right back in this game with a pick six. Like it was just so different. And the timing of that, obviously Leonard couldn't control the timing, but that's real impact right there. It feels very similar to what like TJ Watt does. It feels like TJ Watt, even if he doesn't have a bunch of sacks, the ones he has always matter. Those forced fumbles he get, they always matter. They're always big, whether in the fourth quarter or just in a big tide turning moment like Leonard had today. I thought that was critical. And that is the last thing on the defense. We'll talk about them later in our questions too. But I do think that has been something I've noticed as well. Like they're just really prepared for the moments, like really prepared. Like, okay, maybe we need to stop right here. There's been a lot of drives in the last like few weeks outside of coming out of the bye week. If we isolated to this 3-game win streak where it's like, okay, guys, you kind of need to help the offense out right here. However you need to. In the Niners game, it was you need to stop so Geno and then can get the ball back. They get the stop. In the Cardinals game, it wouldn't have been do or die if they gave up a touchdown in that goal line situation. With the fact that they stood up, like we talked about to open last week's post-game show, that was very, very important, the timing of it. And today, they really needed a turnover. Both, I think, in the fourth quarter when Julian forced the fumble, but also at the time Leonard got the pick six. Even if Leonard just picks it off, I think that would be huge. To take it all the way just kind of took the wind out of New York sails. And then that final drive. Obviously, you can't give up a touchdown or you lose. But they were just playing really locked in with the exception of whatever Reek was doing on 3rd and 1,000,000. At least I think that was his fault because Julian was laying into him. I ain't never seen Julian yell at nobody like he was yelling at Reek on 3rd and 26.
Mike mentioned in the post game, he talked about, one of our defenders just hugged a different zone and left the flat kind of wide open. So we'll have to watch the film and see it. But yeah, that was definitely, I believe, was on Reek. But without seeing it.
Yeah, I haven't seen a replay, but just looking at Julian yell at Reek, I'm assuming it was Reek until I go back and look. But I loved outside of that call, I thought they were really kind of dialed in there. And then once it came to 4th and whatever, Mike Macdonald he don't blitz much, but boy, he said send the dogs and go get them. And I just the situational stuff has been really solid. And I think that's why the Seahawks. I'll look this up. So since week 10, they're allowing 14.7 points per game. Let's see. That is this includes the Bills game, which is on right now and we're recording. So when we take the Bills out of this, the only teams better have been the Lions and the Broncos. They're both under 14 points. So basically the Seahawks have been coming out of the bye. They've been one of the best defenses in the league. And last stat, because Chris knows I'm a numbers guy, if we were to go by opponent's points per drive, which is better because that points per game number, whenever you guys see that, it does include special team stuff. So it can kind of skew the numbers a little bit, and it includes like if the offense throws a pick six because it's just total points divided by games played. So if we look at points per drive, which really just isolates the defense's performance, which is more important, which is why you see me use it in my stories, the Seahawks are number 1 in the league over the last 3 weeks, 1.2 points per drive that their opponents have. And the Lions are 2nd, and the Broncos are 3rd, Philly's 4th. The Cardinals actually are 5th. So the Seahawks have been the best scoring defense, depending on what happens in this Bills game. They've been the best scoring defense in the league since the bye week.
Wow.
That's Mike Macdonald ball, led by Big Cat. That's why you hire this guy. We'll get to the offense. We got a lot of offensive questions today. We'll get to that. But a hat tip to Big Cat. and Mike Macdonald, because since the bye, they have been as advertised as the head coach who's got the defensive mind and the star defensive tackle. They've both been leading the charge on what has been an amazing defensive turnaround since the bye week.
Very impressive. But you mentioned what we'll get to in regards to special teams offense. So without any more time going past, let's jump right into Twitter questions because we got quite a few. So let's start with special teams because that was. We'll just get to special teams. This first one comes from Bobby Hennessy. Does Harbaugh deserve to be fired? If not, how does Mike Macdonald justify keeping him after not a great year and the game against the Jets? That was just abysmal. How do they make this work?
Good question. Harbaugh is Jay Harbaugh. He is the special teams coordinator, came from Michigan. And yeah, man, this was bad. So I don't have a list, but let's see if I can remember all the snafus. Love that word off the top of my head. So on the Seahawks side, they gave up a 99-yard touchdown run for 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. D. Williams fumbled. LaVisca muffed one. Then LaVisca fumbled, and they had a PAT blocked. And I think they gave up 2 kickoff returns of like 35 plus yards. Yeah, let's see here. Kickoff returns. Yeah. So they gave up a 45-yarder. Wow, these guys were killing it. So the other guy, the Gibson dude, had 2 runs for 81 yards total. And that's not even the guy who scored. Yeah, they would give up a lot of kickoff return yards today. Mike Dixon punted okay. But and then what the Jets do on their side, they had a PAT blocked. Oh, forgot to mention Leonard blocked that. God damn.
Forgot about that, yeah.
Almost forget about that dude, man. So let's talk about special teams. I don't know how the Seahawks haven't been bad at special teams in so long, so I haven't asked a lot of questions to Pete Carroll and other guys about how they evaluate what is the role of the coordinator versus what is the job of the players. Like, for instance, LaVisca muffed 2 kickoffs today. He was not touched on either one. Like, he just muffed one and then just fell down. How much of that is Jay Harbaugh's fault? Like, legit, I don't know how Mike Macdonald would see that. Like, if he would ask me, LaVisca's I think he's in the 2017 draft, so that puts him in like year 6 or something. I don't necessarily put that much on the coordinator for LaVisca fumbling. LaVisca knows not to fumble. Like, if that's the case, you just replace LaVisca. But like coverage stuff, that is, I feel like, more attributable to the coordinator. That's just my opinion. I don't know how Mike Macdonald would see that. Same thing with D. Williams' fumble. D just fumbled. I don't know what else you do about that. I don't know how much you attribute that to the coordinator. It'd be like if Ken Walker and Zach were fumbling, how much of that is just them not holding on to the ball versus something that the running backs coach is not teaching them properly during the week or not holding them accountable for during the week, yada, yada, yada. I do not know how Mike would see that. Personally, I would put more emphasis on, again, things like coverage, the operation of all of the field goal stuff. I'm talking about and punt too, punt coverage, kickoff return, punt return, field goal attempts, PATs, like all those operations. I would put more stock in with the coordinator, like the block against the Giants. That I put more stock towards the coordinator versus like LaVisca muffed or fumbled a kick against the Niners. How much of that is coordinator's fault? I do think it's worth differentiating when we're talking specifically about Jay, because their coverage units are actually decent. Like, today was statistically one of the worst. It was the statistically worst special teams performance of the century for the Seahawks, and it was the worst kickoff performance of the century. So it was bad. So when you talk about the units and the coordinator, that's what I focus on in terms of the coverage and return stuff. So I don't know. I say all that to say I don't think this would be enough to like punt on Jay, no pun intended, I guess, because the coverage stuff in general for the season, Mike Macdonald's a big look at things in totality, look at their process, blah, blah, blah. He's not like an impulsive guy. Good for him. I think Jay is probably safe unless the units get bad or something like that. But if like LaVisca, like ball security is, I feel like, much more of a player accountability thing, particularly if you're not getting hit. Like Laviska, that's inexcusable, and he knows that. We don't got to dwell on it, but like D got hit, cool. You got to hold on to the ball. Laviska muffed it twice without getting touched. And the weather was fine. Like, it was cold, but you know what I mean. It wasn't like snowing, raining. You got to hold on to the rock, So I don't think it's bad enough. I think the Seahawks are like a pretty actually decent coverage team, I believe. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't think they're bad enough with the stuff that you could attribute to Jay for him to get fired right now. If it gets worse, then maybe. But like today, week 13, I don't think so. That's just kind of my 2 cents on it. But again, they haven't been bad in so long that I have never really reported much or asked much about how the coach sees what stuff can be attributed to the unit and the coach versus just what's on the fault of the returner.
This is from Batista Bomb. Was this the worst special teams game either of you have ever watched? Yes. I'll just leave it at that. It was I thought the coverage was fine on that kick return for a touchdown. 2 dudes missed tackles. He bounces off one, another dude just straight up misses. You got to make those tackles.
Yeah.
The coverage was, you guys are in the lane, make the tackle. That's your job, to go and hit the guy running full speed down the field. Make a tackle.
That also, thank you for mentioning that, because that also goes into what is attributable to the coordinator, or at what point do you hold the players accountable. Maybe it's a mixture of both. It's weird. I don't know if it's the worst. It's the worst from the Seahawks lens for sure. I would say, but also, I mean, just in general, the other team technically made plays too. Like you mentioned, like, oh, the Seahawks had bad coverage. Well, that was a great return by that dude's name is Tough. I don't know. I didn't even put his name in my story because it's got a lot of vowels or consonants in it. But I just think it was an up and down performance. I don't know if it was the worst, because I don't want to just say that the Jets didn't make good plays, because they did. And then Leonard blocked one too. I obviously don't track all of like the worst special teams games, but Chris, one that comes to mind, I want to say there was a game where Blair Walsh missed 3 kicks and they lost. I want to say it was against the Washington, whatever they were called at the time, again in 2017, I want to say. And they lost to a Kirk Cousins-led team. That was pretty bad. I know Jason's had some games where he's missed multiple kicks for sure. Michael Dixon's usually nails on punts. Yeah, that might be. It's up there, Chris. Today was up there. Just from the Seahawks perspective, yeah, this is the worst I've ever seen. In totality, though, nah. Because if you count both, if you look at it from both teams' lenses, it was actually a decent day, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I think from the Seahawks view, it's hard to get much worse than that with all the. Chris, they fumbled 3 times on the kickoffs. 3 in the first half. Oh my! And then give up a touchdown. Yeah. Let me pull up this number from Mike Sando via my editor. I think he said by EPA there were. I think he ran the numbers. He was like out of like 1,300 games or something like that. This was the worst one since 2000. Like, yeah, that's pretty rough. I don't know how much worse it can get than that. Oh, here's the number, Chris, before we go. The Seahawks lost 19.2 EPA on kickoffs and kickoff returns. That's expected points added. It's just a nerdy stat for this. He said that ranks out of 13,280 team games since 2000. That is number 13,280. So the worst of the century. So yeah, I would say yes, this is pretty bad.
Man, you did not have to bring that up, but god dang. Oh,
had to. It's what I gotta reward Mike Sando's research.
This next one comes from Awkward Kong. How concerned should Seahawks fans be about the special teams?
Yeah, I do think the main thing that makes me concerned about special teams is the binary stuff. I don't usually get into the coverage stuff. It got to be real bad. You got to be like giving up kick returns, averaging like 50 yards a return or something, before I really dive in. But when I say the binary stuff, I mean like fumbles and missed kicks, because those don't require analysis. You either held on to the ball or you didn't, and then you either made the kick or you didn't. I'm not worried about J-My for the most part, even though I'm like never kicked. I'm not worried about him. I don't think I'll ever be worried about Michael Dixon punting, like ever. But I do think, I think I was ready to move on from the returners at the bye week, maybe earlier. Ball security, I've talked about this before, I think, Chris. It's everything to me when it's with my returners. You could be Devin Hester mixed with Dante Hall mixed with Percy Harvin back there. But if you can't catch the ball, you do not matter to me as a returner. For real. Like, you could be the best returner on God's green earth, but if like physically, in terms of your ability to make guys miss, if I don't trust you to catch the rock or hold on to the rock, whichever one, I'm not putting you back there. I really don't care. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter. That's just me, though. I don't know how Mike Macdonald is. I would imagine he and Jay Harbaugh would have to be on the same accord. And Chris, I do think sometimes it depends on what your options are. Like, for instance, someone asked me today during the game at halftime, they was like, would you put Laviska back there or D back there again? I was like, yeah, probably not. And he was like, well, who else are you going to put back there? I was like, yeah, plenty of options on this roster. Trey Brown's returned kicks before. Tyler Lockett's been I know he's not like a speedster these days, but I trust Locke to hold on to the ball, punt, and kickoff. He'll make good decisions. Kenny McIntosh has been back there before. Cody White, I haven't seen him do it, but I give him a shot if I trust him to hold on to the ball. JSN is one of their backup punt returners. Like, that's the other part of the situation right now. I don't think they're short on options. Funny, I ran into shout out to Aesop Winston Jr., former Seahawk. He's on the Jets practice squad now. I ran into him in the tunnel. They could use him right now, to be returning stuff. But I bring all that up to say they're not out of options. Like, I think it'll be very easy to have an open comp and practice this week and be like, all right, new kick returners, because ball security is everything, man. I remember I used to talk to Chad Morton, their old running backs coach. I think he's with the Bears right now, but he used to be in charge of like the returners. That was part of his other job. And we would talk about that all the time. He don't give a damn how good you are in the open field. If you don't hold on to the ball, you are not getting back there. Ain't nothing you can do. So yeah, I'm always going to be concerned about reoccurring ball security issues. I think D he muffed 2 punts and then fumbled today. Laviska's now, like I mentioned, he's now fumbled 3 times. And Chris, the most concerning thing I thought about the second one was that seemed just mental. That seemed like, damn, I muffed the first one. Let me make sure I don't mess up the second time, and then messed up the second time. And at that point, you're just in your own head. I didn't talk to him after the game, but I feel like we've seen that before. It happens with kickers as well. They miss wide left or something, and then their next kick misses wide right because they overcompensate, and then they're in their own head. So, yeah, I'm pretty concerned. But I do think it's a very quick fix. Put new dudes back there. That can be done in 1 day of practice.
Well, speaking of new dudes, Luka Vandross. What's it going to take for D. Williams to be replaced? At what point are they going to say enough is enough? Was this the last straw?
Because they had him out there on punts today, after all that, maybe not. I do wonder, though, if the thing about Laviska is, I should finish my sentence. I do wonder if they keep him back there. And the reason I wonder is if he's not your kick returner, his value to the roster then decreases dramatically. Because that's kind of what you have him for, I mean, he does other stuff too, but like they'll tell you, they've been telling us since they signed him, since training camp, since preseason, like, oh, that's why we have him. He's electric with the ball in his hands. They ain't getting the ball in his hands on offense, so it's mostly special teams. So I don't know what it would take. I did not talk to Mike Macdonald post game. I usually don't, so we'll hear from him. He'll do the radio and then talk to him Monday afternoon. I would imagine he's not going to like make any commitments either way. Like, oh, we're benching D or we're benching Laviska. He's probably just going to say, we're going to look at everything or something generic like that. But if it was up to me, both of them would put the ball in the dirt 3 times. That's too many. That personally for me, I don't know what Mike will do. It's hard to predict. I don't know him well enough to predict, but for me, three, Chris, that's 3 times in 13 weeks. That's too much. That's a fourth of the season, 12 games. So 3 times in 12 games, that's a fourth of the season. Put the ball on the ground. I can't have that. Not while the margin for error is so small with this team. Can't have it. I'd have open tryouts this week.
This next one comes from Ed Prince. What does it say about Christian Haynes that someone has mostly been a healthy scratch? Got the start over him, excuse me.
Yeah, John Snyder's having a weird little draft class, isn't he, Chris? I feel like we talked about the class a little bit, but when I say that, like, so he had Satawa Laumea. Hopefully, I got the name right there. He had him inactive all year, and then as soon as AB gets Anthony Bradford gets put on IR, we all think it's going to be Christian Haynes, and Mike McDonald's like, huh, "Slow your roll, buddy. We're going to look at our rook." And I was like, "Okay." And then he beats out Christian Haynes, which was kind of interesting. I was very surprised by that. So then you got Christians to the bench. Nehemiah Pritchett was like next man up. Now he hasn't played in forever. Uh, and now Mike Jarrell back to the bench, but that makes sense because Abe's back. There was another. Oh yeah, DJ James didn't even make their team coming out of camp. That was a interesting one. So yeah, it's not looking great for that rookie class so far. Although I do think Byron and Tyrese and AJ. So maybe he's like shooting 50% from the field, I guess, with this draft class. But yeah, I do think it doesn't bode well for Christian. He might just be one of those dudes who needs an offseason to really reflect and get right. I'm not sure. Haven't talked to him much about it. I do think that we don't have to wonder what the issue is, though. Shout to Ryan Grubb. All year, he has been very consistent about what Christian needs to do better to win the job. Stop getting overpowered. Those are basically Ryan Grubb's words. We ain't even got to wonder. I think someone asked me that on Twitter. They're like, "Man, what's wrong with Christian Haynes?" I'm like, I didn't have time to reply, but I was just like, in my head, I'm like, Grubb's been telling us he ain't playing with enough power, which makes sense. He kind of just look at how he's built. It makes sense. He has kind of skinny legs for a guard. Like you look at him standing next to like Laken Tomlinson, for instance, or even Olu. He's just kind of a skinnier guy in the lower half. I'm trying not to just make him say something that would make Chris say pause or something or no Diddy. I was towing the line there, but yeah, it doesn't bode well. Doesn't mean it's over. I think Christian's still like a good blocker. He's not like unplayable, but I do think that is the wrong issue to have for a guard. Like if you're just getting overpowered, well, that's like usually like the go-to move for most interior defensive linemen is just trying to bull rush you. So if they just feel like they can do that and they don't trust you to be able to handle that, that's pretty bad. So I do think Christian may be better with like a year or whatever to really get right, get on a strength program, kind of look at some of his film. But yeah, I think it is a really huge indictment of kind of how he's performed and how he's practiced that they're pretty much like, we'll put anyone else out there other than 64, which is not a good look for a guy who played, I think, 6 years at Connecticut, 5 or 6. So he was in college for a long time, was supposed to be like a plug and play guard, and that has just not been the case.
Nick Z Red, with the offense still struggling, could Ryan Grubb potentially be out after just one season?
Yeah, Chris, I do wonder sometimes how many of our listeners are Coug fans, because it feels like it's been a short straw with Ryan Grubb here. It really has been, and I wonder how many Cougs are feeling a way about him. But even Husky fans probably who listen to us too are probably like, this is not what we were watching up there in Mont Lake. This is not it. As in terms of firing, I don't know how Mike will assess it. I do know this about Mike Macdonald. He is very much about process. How are you training your guys during the week? How good are your plans? How good are your thoughts and ideas and what you're bringing to the table and what you're doing on a day-by-day basis, week by week, like how you're stacking stuff, building things, how prepared are you, blah, blah, blah. As a coordinator, it's not all just how many points do you score. Obviously, that's important, but the other team gets paid too. And Mike Macdonald realizes that, particularly as a defensive coach. So I know he's going to evaluate Grubb's process and the way he's teaching things, the way he's designing things, even if they don't work, just the way he's designing things. Because honestly, and Chris knows this because he watches the film, as do I, every week there are great plays on tape that just don't work because the line is bad. Like there's at least, maybe we should start counting them, Chris, but I would estimate probably about 3 or 4 a game, at least one that would be a touchdown if blocked properly. At least one every week, and Mike sees that type of stuff. How much of the O-line is his fault? Who knows? It's been bad forever. So I'd be very surprised at this point just because of how much Mike has kind of talked up the process on Grubb. And I think Mike would be very honest if the process wasn't good, and even some of the players they've spoken higher of Grubb at this point than some of them did with Shane on the way out. I don't need to name anyone at the time. That said, Chris, I don't even know if the Seahawks offense right now is better than what Shane had going. Like to be honest, and that's pretty disturbing. Like the offense is not good. It makes some timely plays here and there, which you would expect because of all the high end talent that they have, but it's certainly not good. I haven't done the math, but I'm pretty sure, Chris, we're still on a streak of not scoring over 20 points since week 7. Do I have that right?
Let me help you out here.
What they scored? They scored 26 today, but 6 of that is
today.
Leonard.
So yeah,
they haven't scored 20 points since the Falcons game. That was
And
in week 7.
They also
Over
couldn't
20
score from
points.
they also couldn't score from the 1 yard line, half yard line, 4 plays.
Yeah, I mean, the short yardage stuff is just and it's not even just running the ball. Like all of the short yardage stuff as that goal line drive demonstrated, all of it is a mess. Yeah, looking at right now, I'm looking at just EPA per play. Yeah, this is the points per game are down, points per drive. They're worse than anything Shane's ever had by points per drive for sure. By EPA per play, yeah, they're worse than anything Shane ever had. Shane Waldron, that is. Yeah, this offense is those are just 2 metrics, but I mean the offense is not good. The offense is not good, and I do think that I mentioned that stuff about process. As good as that process is, Mike does ultimately care about the results. But what I do think is helping Grubb, probably in terms of job security, is how they have finished the last few games. I do think that's been is coming out of the bye week. So let's see. Let's go through the Niners game-winning touchdown. Simple. Even in the Cardinals game, as much as we griped, rightfully so, over their inability to kind of run the ball in that second half, they did put together an 8-minute drive to put the Cardinals away. That was important. That is winning football, even if we didn't necessarily like the way they did it. And then today, when you had to have it, yes, the Jets threw up all over themselves. But you still had to go down there and score with Zach Charbonnet on 3rd and 1 from the 8, which they did. That's a good play, great blocking, great run by Zach. Like you did it. So they've finished the last 3 games really well, and I would almost guarantee you that as frustrated as Mike probably is with the results of some of the other stuff that they're doing, that is the part that's probably saving Grubb, and that doesn't even have firing him in Mike's mind right now because they're finishing well. They're executing well. I feel like if any of you guys watch the Thanksgiving games, you can see how just getting the operation right is very hard for some of these teams where they're using your timeouts, knowing when to clock it, game management, clean snaps. We just saw some teams on Thursday and Friday just throw up on themselves in crunch time. And the Seahawks have been a little cleaner in that regard since the bye week. The snaps have gotten better since Connor retired. So I do think that stuff, if I had to project, is probably saving Grubb, and that's giving him the benefit of the doubt in Mike's mind to keep him, even though the offense is objectively not good right now.
I heard you on that one. Let's see. This next one comes from Chris Leeper. Why are the Seahawks so undisciplined between penalties, turnovers, missed tackles? This team ain't the Legion of Boom and can't survive playing this sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, well, Legion of Boom did commit a lot of penalties. But I get the point of the question. It does feel like, though, I don't know if they ever talk about it on the broadcast, but Chris, it feels like when the Seahawks have a heavy penalty game, the other team does too. Like I don't feel like we've had a game where I have to look at the stats, but it doesn't feel like off the top of my head we've had a game where the Seahawks are the only ones like penalty heavy. Like even today, there's 5 penalties on the Seahawks today. The Jets committed 12.
80
like, and I think it was the Bills game where the Seahawks had like maybe double-digit penalties. I think it was. Well, the Bills had more. You know, I saw some stat. This was, I think, at the bye week or right after. Like the Seahawks opponents, like lead the league. They lead the league in like opponent penalties as well. I think is what it was, or something like that. It was basically saying the Seahawks are basically just getting a quick whistle, which is what it seems like. I think actually they've been a little bit better on the discipline. If I had to look at the numbers on it, today 5 penalties. Last week was a cleaner game. The Niner game was a cleaner game. They've been actually, I thought, a little bit cleaner since the bye week when they were just sloppy as hell. I actually didn't think today was a big missed tackle game, Chris. Was it?
Yeah, I didn't have too many.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't watching it. I do the same thing you do with MTs. Not that many MTs on my notes that I remember off top. When I go back and look, maybe I'll find one or two, but not many missed tackles. They did a really sound job on tackling. Penalties, I thought they were not terrible, but they could have been better. But to your point about the Jets, they just threw up all over themselves and gave the Seahawks opportunities. So I thought for the most part, it wasn't what we saw last week against the Cardinals, but they weren't terrible. I didn't think they were that bad.
Yeah, I'm looking at the penalties today. Let's see. Leonard had the face mask. That seemed just like it's kind of bad luck.
Bang bang.
Yeah. Abe got called for holding. Oh, and Satao. I didn't get a good look at that. That was on a Ken Walker run for like 20-something yards. I didn't get a good look at that. I have to go back and look. Roy was offsides. That's just dumb. That's a discipline one. Draymond's roughing the passer was definitely roughing the passer. And then Satao false start. So yeah, I mean, not the worst. That was like a normal game. I feel like that feels like a normal NFL game with the penalties. Whereas before it was like, dog, what are you guys doing? It was DPIs all over the place. Spoon was getting illegal contact. It was ineligible downfield on all their RPO stuff, which they've gotten rid of a lot of, it seems. There you go, Grubb. Smart man. The RPO stuff was not working. The screen they run finally didn't work. See, Chris doesn't have, for all YouTube people. See, he don't got the little note about screens under his screen.
Hey,
Yeah.
they had a
Oh yeah.
The film study was good for the Jets. They did their homework.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I actually think discipline's actually gotten a lot better. Not a lot of blown coverages. I really think that third and long one that was probably on Reek. I'd have to go back and look. That seemed like to be the most glaring. But in general, they haven't had a lot of coverage busts. Even like some of the Trey McBride stuff from last week, I went back and looked. That was just some good play calls. They put some defenders in conflict, and it was just, the other team gets paid too. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it really feels like the way the Jets moved the ball today was Aaron Rodgers just finding matchups and guys winning. And sometimes they didn't win. Spoon had some wins against Garrett and Devontae. Reek had some wins. Job had some wins. All three of them had losses. Like it was really like a good 7-on-7 game, and that like it competitive. I mean, with both teams going back and forth. They went at Job, kept going at Job. He gave up a lot of yards today and a touchdown. But yeah, I actually don't think today was super undisciplined. I think they're getting a lot better with that, particularly with the tackling. I thought today was another pretty clean tackling game, which is why you see Brees with only 60 yards today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. This next one is from our guy across the world over there in Germany, Thorsten. Are you more optimistic or concerned for the rest of the season about the state of the Seahawks?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably generally optimistic, because Mike's side of the ball has turned around, and I really am big on that. When you're hired for your side of the ball, I need that side of the ball to be nails, almost from the jump. Really depending on what you inherit, whether that's Sean McVay or Mike McDaniel or D'Amico Ryans, whose defense was actually not that great last year, but the offense was so good it didn't matter. But yeah, these coaches who have a specialty, like when you get hired for that, I really want that part of the ball, that part of the game to come out running or come out hot. And Mike Macdonald did, then it cooled down, then he fixed it. I'm generally encouraged by that because when you play good defense and that becomes your calling card, I do think you can win a lot of games even while your offense figures it out, as we're seeing. It'd be the same thing if they hired an offensive guy and the offense was clicking. I'd be pretty high on that. So that has me generally optimistic. I'm not like overly concerned about the offense, though I don't think it's like championship level ball. You got to be able to move the rock. And they're just not moving it with consistency. And the red zone, goal line, short yardage, all that has got to have its stuff. And they just did. They just look like they're getting knocked back on blocks, getting schemed up. I thought Sauce just made some good plays today in the red zone on DK. Those were really good. But then the sprint out to the left. Come on. What was that, Chris? Are you kidding me?
I understand trying to get DK open on a slant, but I would rather give him more space. If he had did a fade route, if he had did an out route, you know how much space he would have? There's just so much room for him if you want to throw the football on 3rd and goal or 2nd and goal, whatever it was. I just thought they could have had so many different options on a route other than, hey, just get in front of them and try to score a touchdown. The entire right side of the end zone is wide open. Like DK, slant, go from there. Act like you're going in for a slant, have Geno throw you a back shoulder. I just thought they could have gotten more creative. I don't mind the throw. I just didn't like that they try to do a slant as if not Spoon, look at me, my bad. As if Sauce
Sauce.
isn't good enough to stay in front of DK on a slant. I just thought they could have gotten a little more creative. I would have loved to see an outside move, inside breaking to the outside, just because there's so much more space, and Geno would have a lot more room to work with and make a throw for a touchdown, as opposed to trying to get in front of Sauce and then throw a laser for a slant and a touchdown. That was just my initial reaction. Sure, DK could have ran a better route, but I just believe, wow, if they're going to leave you one-on-one on that island and you have so much space to the right on your outside, take advantage of that and try to score that way. That was my little tidbit on that.
Yeah, and they did try to slant, the fade too on first down, and they were off. Just a weird drive. But I do like just trying to get it to DK. Generally, I like it as a thought process, like that simple, smart stuff.
Yeah,
by Grubb, but yeah, it's hard for me to be optimistic when those are your drawbacks. If you don't run the ball super well, which I don't think they were better at it today. What did Ken have? 16 for 40, 49.
That's not great.
No, that's not.
He just happened to score a touchdown, Mike.
Yeah, Zach scored. Not great. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of characteristics about the offense I just don't like. They don't use a lot of play action. I'm not a fan of. A lot of shotgun runs. Not a fan of. Not good in short yardage. Obviously a problem. Red zones iffy. Like these are bad things. Like this is stuff that like got Shane let go. So I am a little worried there, but the only thing the main thing that gives me optimism is the defense, and then also Geno. I think Geno's playing good ball generally. Despite what doesn't seem to be a good O-line, and then what doesn't seem to be a really good play caller. Despite all that, I do think Geno's playing well, and he didn't throw a pick today. Yeah, he did not.
That's the first game this season.
I think he had another one, but yeah, I think that's only the second game.
Oh, okay. Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's look at the game log. Let's see. He did not throw a pick against the Patriots, the Giants, or the Falcons. Oh yeah, so he's had a few games. He had a few games with no picks.
He's thrown so many, we just lump them all together.
Well, yeah, he's had 3 multi-interception games. That's where the number's coming from. 2 against the Dolphins, 2 against the Niners on the Thursday, 3 against the Rams. So that's where that's coming from.
AJ, they still ain't good, right?
Appreciate the question. AJ? Yeah, Chris, I don't know. I don't know if the Seahawks are good. The defense is good.
They're still in the meh territory. I tweeted out today. These are 2 just meh teams battling out for the meh title. Just bad. The play was bad. I think the Seahawks are a better football team, but just 2 teams that can't run the football. Breece Hall fumbling the football. They the Jets are a bad football team playing with their season on the line, and now they're 3-9. The Seahawks were playing to keep the division lead, which they do. They're now 7-5, but 2 meh teams. That's how I look at it. I don't know if they're a bad football team, but I do think they're right in the middle. They do a lot of bad things, like, the Seahawks can't run the football. That's pretty bad, especially when you're going to rely on Geno to have to drop back and throw. Because as you mentioned, playing against a good football team, if you can't run the football, you're one-dimensional, and that's going to be easy to stop. It'll be easier, I should say. So they're making it really difficult for them as the season progresses. They cannot find ways to run the football successfully.
All right, that's a good point. I generally agree. You guys know I'm a big point differential guy. I'm looking at where the Seahawks are. So the Seahawks are still only +7, which is not bad. The Cardinals are also +7. The Bears still somehow have a positive point differential. This is unreal. They're 4-8. They just dog. That is crazy. Anyway, Chris, I think so. Here's the top 5 by point differential in the NFL. The Lions are at +180. The Bills, again, we're recording during Sunday Night Football. So at the moment, the Bills are up 21-3. So they're at plus 124. The Eagles are plus 102. The Commanders are plus 80. And then both the Packers and the Vikings are plus 78. I would say the good teams probably stops there. But if you would like to include the Steelers, Chargers, and Ravens, the Steelers and Chargers are plus 72, and the Ravens are plus 65. So if you want to include all of those teams, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9 teams, not including the Broncos, who play on Monday Night Football, and the Chiefs, who are plus 54 and are 11-1. Obviously, I would include 11-1 team in the good teams. But if you don't want to, because the Chiefs look vulnerable, that's fine. I say all that to say the Seahawks are like an okay team, probably. And it's reflected in a lot of things they do, many of which we've talked about, but I think it's most reflected in the points. Like and I think good is relative to the rest of the league too. I think there are very clearly good teams in the league. The Lions are they're good. They're very good. That is a guarantee. The Eagles, very good. The Bills, very good. And then I think the Steelers are good. I think the Ravens are good, even though they lost today. I think the Chargers are good. And I think the Vikings and Packers are both good. And I don't know what to do with the Commanders yet. I seen they beat up on the Titans. I didn't watch. So I think the Seahawks are probably right in that little next little thing right there with the Cardinals. If you want to put them with the Commanders, that's probably I'd probably be okay with that. With Denver, if you want to put them there. So yeah, I think they're like okay. You're right, meh, average, okay, and that's fine. That honestly might be good enough to win a division. So that's all that matters right now, at least, till they get to the playoffs. But yeah, I wouldn't put it in the good category yet. Not with the offense playing like this.
Mike, who was the person that DM'd you? Do you remember their name by any chance? Before I read their question.
Oh yeah, my homie Adam. That's my homie Adam.
Adam wants to know: do you think the Seahawks run the ball enough to declare that they can't run it?
Yeah, so basically, Adam's asking if they have a credible run game, and I think the answer is yes. I do think, and I say that based on how do I want to put this? Yeah, I think they run it enough for the other team to respect it, and you can kind of see in the coverage, like the way teams rotate safeties down and do their fronts, and the way their linebackers play action stuff. That they do have a credible run game, which is good. Which is why it also frustrates me that they don't use more play action because teams are biting on it. They are still, even though you're not very good at it and not very good at running. That is, it does feel like it still feels like Grubb is treating the run game as this other thing that they do instead of being part of the identity. And I think the goal line trip was a really good example. Let me get the sequencing up right here. Or do you have it, Chris? You have the goal line sequence here? Because I feel like that was huge.
As a matter of fact, I do have it. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, and I have it too. So they got down to the goal line with the double move. DK put on DJ Reed, which probably should have been a touchdown. It looks like Geno probably should have put more air on that. DK had him beat by a lot. Anyway,
great move, great route.
Yeah, it was a great move. And it was to my side of the press box too, so I saw it the whole time. So that's how I know it was kind of underthrown. Anyway, so right after that, we got the goal line fade to DK on 1st and goal from the 4. I'm okay with that. That's fine. It's DK. Like you say, Chris, give him more space. I think that was to the short side of the field, but either way. After that, they get under center and they run it to Ken 3 yards. I am perfectly Grubb, you are good to go, according to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, up until that point. You are. All right. Now we're going to 3rd and goal. 3rd and goal, we got this ended in a DPI. Oh, this was in the back of the end zone. Didn't like that. And I didn't put UC next to it, so this must have been a shotgun play. Didn't like that. Fortunately, Grubb, you got bailed out by who's number 36? Is that the guy Earl punched? I don't have a feeling. I think that is Chuck Clark. All right, but Chris, we get 1st and goal from the 1. Under center, run to Ken. You're good, Grubb. I'm all right with that. In terms of the sequencing, obviously they should have scored on all of these plays. After that, play action pass to Noah in the flat. Where you stand on that one? Chris?
I love it. just missed them. You gotta make that.
I'm okay with that too. However, I feel like if you want to be a team where the run is part of your identity,
You gotta run it in there.
you gotta get it. You gotta be able to run in there, and they have been able to at times. And the next one is another run by Zach. This is under center, and I think that they drop off sides. At least that's what I have. So
Yes,
and
that's correct.
that was not going to score.
No.
Off. But I do like the thought there to get back to the run, and then you got another 3rd and goal, and this is the slant that we talked about already.
Didn't like that play. Sorry.
I
Just didn't like that deep.
didn't either. I didn't either. Also,
Right.
it's a yard. Geno can't sneak it from there. I don't know. It's I don't know. Geno hasn't been cash on sneaks, so maybe that's not enough.
Not the
And
hill
then
you
the
want to
fourth-
die on.
Yeah, I mean, I would at least try one. I don't know. And then 4th and goal, the sprint out. I thought that was awful.
They
I
just
thought
locked that up.
that was awful, and it was predictable. You could just kind of tell after the run by Zach that they were just done running it. And I think that might have been when Adam texted me, or he texted me after the game. But that might be the genesis of it. And then it just didn't feel like they could get back into the groove with the run game again. It just feels like Grubb again just treats it more like it's the other thing they have to do is like part of who we are. And we've referenced some of these same teams, and I'm going to keep doing it. You know, when you watch the Ravens, when you watch the Eagles, I didn't watch that game today, but when you watch the Lions, when you watch even the Bills, really lately, you know, when you watch the Steelers, when you watch the Chargers, although I didn't watch today, they're missing J.K. Dobbins, so who knows how that looks. But in general, all of these teams, pretty much, Chris, all of the good teams we named, when you watch them, you see more of an identity, and you see more how the run is not just like it seems like it's a box the Seahawks check versus let's really establish this line of scrimmage. You know,
Yeah.
they really got bailed out today on those 4th and 1 calls. They like
I'm not. Hey man, this is not a Jets podcast, but you ain't lying, Mike. I felt the Seahawks should have lost that game, but the Jets are just bad at every facet of football that they just get in their own way. It's like 4th and 5, 12 men on the field. What are you guys 4th and 6? Excuse me. What are you guys doing? The Seahawks don't even have a punter. Like they are trying to. The Jets were saying, "Hey, we don't want to win. We're trying to get the worst record possible to get the number 1 pick overall." That's what it looked like watching them. They just clueless. Every play.
Yeah, that was awful.
Every 3rd down, it was like, oh, what are the Jets going to do? How are they going to screw it up? What do you know? Oh, holding on the defense. What are you guys doing? I'm saying that. What are y'all doing? You're trying to lose?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They were playing like a team that was not trying, at least not trying to win.
No.
Yeah, so yeah, the 4th and 1, they got bailed out on a DPI, which was probably a DPI, but like I didn't like
It is what it is.
I didn't like the call. The Zach run had no chance.
The horse collar?
The horse collar, yeah.
That was just unfortunate. It's like, bro, he's trying to make a tackle. Damn, all right.
I feel like even if he'd have just tackled him normally, Zach don't get it, you know.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But because it looked pretty stopped up for the most part. Like
yeah,
it didn't even look like it was close. They wouldn't even have measured.
There was 2 dudes in the backfield when the ball was in his hands. Yeah, I don't know if he was escaping.
He probably was not. I haven't seen the replay of it, but live I got a good look at it, and I got a good look at the replay. And then the third and 1, you know, good for them. There was another penalty on that drive too, on like a 3rd down. Like I
said, they just got in their own way.
Yeah, and I just don't think they got a neutral zone infraction on 3rd and 6. That's what it was.
Okay, excuse me. They're not 12 men on the field. The neutral zone.
No. The neutral zone was on the one that Geno initially was ruled a fumble.
The incomplete.
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
they eventually changed it to incomplete, but it ended up being 3rd and 1 instead of 3rd and 6 that Zach ends up scoring on because of the neutral zone infraction on Will Macdonald. So like the Jets again just threw up all over themselves and helped the Seahawks out quite a bit. Again, kudos to them for taking care of business when the Jets were throwing up on themselves. But yeah, I just don't think they have a credible run game, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It needs to be far more consistent, far cleaner, and they just really got to own it. They really got to own it, and they're just not doing that right now.
This next one comes from Ryan Turner at Turns44. JSN appreciation question. What were your opinions of him coming out of the draft? How has he developed, and what is his ceiling?
Okay, this is fun. Chris, were you watching the Rose Bowl live that he went off on?
No, I just saw the highlights, and I guess I'll just steal the question first. So, I didn't know. I knew he was phenomenal at route running. I knew he had good hands. I knew all these things coming in. I think, matter of fact, that's something we did a damn near a whole, not a whole podcast, but we did a preview of the draft. And was it a preview or maybe it was after the draft? Nonetheless, I was very impressed with his skill set. And how he's developed is just been crazy. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because the patience he has when he runs his routes. Again, he's not blowing doors off with his speed. He is very meticulous with his routes. When you watch him, everything he does, there's a reason behind it. It's not just doing it just to make the film, oh wow, this is a great route. He's doing it to find space. He has late hands at times. He just attacks the ball differently every time. You just never know what's going to happen with JSN on the specific play. He knows when to body catch it. He knows when to put his hands out. And what I love the most about his routes is in zone, a lot of people sometimes, when you watch them, they are going so fast that the quarterback can't even get them the ball because they're not idling down and sitting in that zone. Whereas JSN, when you watch the tape of him, he does such a great job of idling down and getting his hands ready and letting Geno know, I'm open in this hole. Hit me. And you see it time and time again. He's also been the new Tyler Lockett in the sense of on third down, when Geno is scrambling, JSN just knows exactly where to be. And there was one on that third down where he's running across the middle of the field, immediately sees that Geno's under duress, hits a corner route, throws his hand up. Geno sees him and delivers a strike to him for a huge first down. Those are the type of things that he has developed and getting more comfortable with. And he's the leading receiver on the Seahawks. Who would have thought that JSN would be the leading receiver for the Seahawks 2024 season? I know I didn't have that. I figured DK would continue his dominance that we've seen over the past few seasons of just him being a freak of nature and getting those yards and getting touchdowns. But JSN has quietly jumped to the front of that, and he has been very impressive. And again, for me, it's his ability to read zones and just sit. And he also beats you one-on-one. I know he's not the fastest dude, but my goodness, one-on-one, he finds space and he's always open. So he's just been really fun to watch through this season.
Yeah, coming out, because I think, they were asking about us coming out too. I think that was part, the second part or first part, one of the parts of the question. So I did watch the Rose Bowl live, and I was like, wow, who the hell is this guy? He is killing it. No, for real, he was, dog. He was barbecuing Utah. It was bad. He was just so locked in. That was my first time ever hearing of him. And then he had a touchdown catch, might have been the game winner or the go ahead, where it looked so much like Tyler Lockett's touchdown in 2018 against the Bears on Monday Night Football that I went and found the clip. I think I even tweeted it that day because I must have been off that day because it was New Year's. I was just like, yo, this Smith and Jigba kid is great. Who is this guy? And then I Googled him, and then I looked up a profile that someone wrote on him on The Athletic, which I didn't know. And then I found out he's the best receiver in Texas high school history. He has all of the records in Texas. That is crazy. Once I saw that he was a 5-star, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. He's not just some random dude. I saw that thinking, oh, I'm the only one learning about him today. And apparently everyone else has already known because he had 1,600 yards that year, I think. And again, 5-star recruit. One of the best players in the history of Texas high school football. The numbers back that up. So that was my introduction to him. I wanted the Seahawks to take him because he just reminded me so much of Tyler for all the reasons that you mentioned. I won't regurgitate those. But yeah, the one I will regurgitate is the hands. It was really good hands. Works back to the ball, tracks the ball well, which makes sense because he also does special team stuff. He's one of their backup punt returners. You got to be able to track the ball well. So my impression of him was oh, this is Tyler. I just thought he would get drafted too high for the Seahawks to even get him. I didn't even think it was a shot. I was almost, Chris, certain that if you remember, the Texans had pick, I think, 3 and 12. I was almost certain the Texans were going to pair CJ with JSN. I'm pretty sure they were going to take CJ and then use their second pick on Stroud. They ended up getting Will Anderson and CJ, which was fine. And then got Tank Dell later. So that all worked out. But anyway, I did not think the Seahawks were going to get him. When they got him, I was like, whew, this dude is good. Not super fast, but he has surprised me with his ability to use his speed, the speed that he has to not necessarily just get open downfield, which I always knew he could do because of the Rose Bowl, but he's like one of the better YAC players in the league. That part I did not expect for a dude that's not a Blazer. So like I think where does he rank in YAC? He is top 15 in YAC among all players. And if I just filter that to wide receivers, JSN is 6th behind Jamar Chase, Khalil Shakir, Zay Flowers, who was also in his draft class, CeeDee Lamb, and DJ Moore. So yeah, that part has been surprising how good at yards after the catch he's been, but everything else I kind of figured. The Rose Bowl, he had like 350 yards.
Yeah.
That's all. Like DK told me last week, that's kind of all you needed to see. But yeah, he's been as advertised this season.
Yeah, he has. All right. This next one comes from Chris Farnsworth. What advice would you give Ryan Grubb to try and get the ground game going?
I love this question because I always, you guys can tell when you listen to the show, I'm always imagining myself as the Seahawks asking Chris and I for advice. That's like our thing, at least my thing. So I love this. So if Grubb came to me and Chris, at least let's say he just comes to me first, I would say, thank you, Grubb. This first one's free. The next time you ask me, I'm charging you. But this first one, I would say, Grubb, you might have to legit spend an entire practice just running the ball. Like sometimes you really got to do that. Like it reminds me, Chris, movie reference time. Ding, ding, ding. Coach Carter. This might be the movie we reference the most on this show. You remember when he first gets there and then he just has them do conditioning for like however many days in a row until their first game. And he's like, when they get into the first game, he's like, look, I know we didn't practice any offense, but what did we do in practice? And the kid's like, run. All right. So what do you think I want you guys to do in this first game? He's like, run. Boom. Same thing with the Seahawks. Just as Coach Carter didn't practice no offense. Hey man, it might be a whole day where you just no pass plays today. You gotta get your identity right. Start owning these run games until you get it right. Every single detail, all the physicality, pads or no pads doesn't matter. You know what it reminds me of too, Chris, is so in that 2020 season when they killed the whole let Russ cook thing, like I know there were some people who kind of rebuked the idea that Pete actually went in there and killed it because their numbers still looked the same generally for the rest of the season. Like their run pass splits, they only dipped a little bit. But one reason I always knew that wasn't true, just because had done so much reporting on it. But either way, the other way that people relayed to me at the time that they could tell Pete had killed it, Pete didn't walk in the room and be like, all right, guys, let Russ cook is dead. What he did is he told Shoddy he's going to kill it. And then what Shoddy did, instead of being like, hey, but boss man says we're running the ball now, one of the ways that they could tell that something had changed because their practice splits had changed. Let's say instead of like 70 pass plays in practice versus 30 run plays, he flipped it. The number players could see that, oh damn, we're practicing a lot more run plays now. Like, oh, our game plan has a lot more run plays in it. That was part of how they got hip to the change. Maybe he voiced it, Shoddy did, to a few players here and there, but the whole team, like the way they knew because of how they shifted their identity during the week. And I think that's what Grubb needs to do. Like, you really got to dedicate however much time you're doing now, more. Like that Kobe Bryant, Kanye West commercial, more. Like, you have to. That's how you have to do it. I think what they're designing is fine, generally speaking. But you just have to own it more to the point where that's where you feel like it's your identity, it's who you are, it's the thing you do best, not just it's this other thing you do when you're not trying to pass it right this second. That's, I think, the difference between watching the Seahawks and the Eagles and the Lions and some of these other teams. You can tell that that's the run game is part of who they are, you know? So I think that's what Grubb's got to get to. It's a reps thing and a mindset thing more so than it is the scheme. Because even with the shotgun runs are not inherently bad. Plenty of teams run the ball well at a shotgun. Just the Seahawks don't. But you can fix that, I think. You just got to really commit way more to it than it appears that they're doing.
You know, since you brought up a movie reference, when you kept saying more, it reminded me of Men in Black when Edgar was a giant cockroach and he wanted sugar water. And
Great scene.
She poured the sugar in there and he's like, more. She kept pouring more. So she just dumped the whole thing in and he killed it because cockroaches, you know, they love sugar, I guess. I don't know if that's true, but when you kept going more, that was the one scene that popped in my head to get to the movie reference deal of our show. This next one It comes from, I just lost it. Oh, here it is. From Alex Simmons. Should the Seahawks have drafted Jared Verse instead of Byron Murphy? Verse so far has been so much more disruptive.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good question. No, that's fair. Verse is probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And he's earned it. I think he ended the game today against the Saints, with pressure on Derek Carr. So I mean, Verse is killing it right now. I'm gonna say no, just because Byron's playing really well. Like I love what you highlighted, Chris, in our standout plays this week. Go back and watch those, you guys, on from our Friday show, YouTube exclusive. Byron's playing really well. He just plays a position that doesn't allow for a lot of stats, and he's in a scheme that doesn't necessarily allow for a ton of stats either. The Seahawks D linemen don't get a ton of TFLs and stuff, and things like that. And Byron plays a lot of nose tackle, which is tough. But he is playing really well. He's impacting the game. Chris, the Seahawks run defense is turned a freaking corner.
Yeah.
And Byron is a huge, huge, huge part of that. I was just talking to Ernest Jones about that on Thursday, I think it was. No, Wednesday. Talking to him about that on Wednesday. The way Byron and Leo are playing together is really, that's why they're holding all these teams under these numbers in these run game. So I do think Byron's he doesn't have the splash plays, which makes sense. He doesn't play edge. Duh. But I do think it was a good move. I do like the move for now. Now, if Byron just goes on to be like a decent player and Jared Verse goes on to be like Myles Garrett, then obviously no. But like right now, today, I do think they made the right call. I also think that their edge situation was like generally fine at the time of the draft, because what they have, Chris, they had D. Taylor, Derek Hall, Chenna, and Boye. It's like, yeah, it's fine. I wouldn't have like pressed them to take another first round edge. It wouldn't have minded. Just good players are good players. But I understand what they were doing, understand the process. I don't think the results have been bad. I think Byron's a very good defensive tackle. He's a killer. Got the right mindset. So right now, I'll say no. I understand how that can look when Verse is killing it. But I do think they made the right choice for now. I think over time, I bet you those guys probably look similarly impactful for their positions by the time they end their rookie deals. I really do. That's how good I think Byron can be. So I'm gonna say no for right now. We'll probably revisit that at the end of the year, at the end of next year, as long as those two dudes are still in the league. But for now, I'll say no. I appreciate the question though.
Fire Meteor. Should Big Cat be in Defensive Player of the Year talks, or do we need to see more over the next 5 weeks?
That's a good one, Chris. Who's even in the run for Defensive Player of the Year? I can't even think right now. It would have been, I guess, Myles Garrett probably. What we got? TJ Watt.
Yeah, I think TJ Watt's the favorite, right?
They email me the odds every week, and I never open the email. Let me open it. All right,
Oh,
week
Will
13
Anderson.
odds. Yeah, TJ Watt has the best odds. What did he do today? I didn't watch the Steelers game. Did he kill it? Oh God, he had 2 sacks today. Hey, TJ Watt is a beast, dog.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd probably say TJ. That would probably be my vote. But yeah, go ahead and throw Leonard in that conversation. I think he's playing great ball. I think Xavier McKinney, the safety in Green Bay, is playing some good ball too. When I do get a chance to watch their games, I do see him killing it. I think Dexter Lawrence is out of it now. I think dislocated his elbow or something. Fred Warner's out of it. Oh, Will Anderson, that's another one. Myles Garrett. The Browns stink, so I don't think he'll get it. But Will Anderson's been killing it for the Texans, who are probably going to win the division because the division stinks. But yeah, I think you got to throw Leonard in there. I think he's in the discussion. I think if he continues on this path that he's on, let me look up his total numbers right now. He's up to 7 sacks. Does that even include today? Yeah, it does. He's up to 7 sacks. He is multiple TFLs. Yeah, he got the touchdown. I think that really helps. I think he just needs to do more of it because there are some guys on some decent teams killing it. Danielle Hunter is killing it on the Texans. TJ Watt, 9.5 sacks. Oh my God, dude's a beast. TJ Watt has 5 forced fumbles, Chris.
Well, that's tough to beat out.
Are you freaking kidding? This guy was born in a lab. What's up with those Watt brothers, dog? Anyway, but yes, put Leo in the conversation for sure. But right now, yeah, TJ Watt. It's TJ Watt because he's probably the best defensive player in the league. But Leo has put himself in the conversation at least. I bet you these odds that I get emailed each week will include him now. Probably starting next week. He should probably be Defensive Player of the Month for the NFC as well, because I think this game counts for November, since there were a lot of games played in November starting this week. So we'll see. If so, he should probably be Defensive Player of the Month. But yeah, go ahead, throw him in there. But it'd still be TJ Watt right now if I had to vote.
Phil Birnbaum, with the Seahawks shutting down CMC, James Conner, etc., is it safe to believe the run defense is finally not a problem anymore?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Chris, they're playing. You mentioned Ernest. Ernest is a baller, boy. That is a baller. Ernest Jones, man. If you really want to know about the Seahawks run defense, just spend like a drive or two. Just watch 13. Don't watch the ball. Just watch 13, and you'll see. He had like one bad rep today. Right, he got washed off the ball. But I think that's the play Brees ended up fumbling, oddly enough. Yeah, because I think that's how he gets to Julian, for Julian to force the fumble. But he is such a baller. Yeah, I think the run defense is legit. Scheme's good. Teams can't get to their go-to stuff in the run game against the Seahawks. And I think that's the sign of a good defense, whether run or pass. But since we're talking about the run, the Jets couldn't get to anything. They were trying to stretch it, didn't work. Go between the tackles, didn't work. Their best run was to a receiver, I think, right? The little end around joint to one of them fast dudes. Yeah, Corley. That might have been their little best joint. Oh, no, Brees had a 12-yarder. That's right. And he fumbled on that. So, yeah, I think it's legit. You guys know we like to see a sample size before we make a declaration. I'm confident and willing to say the run defense is legit. Doesn't mean James Conner can't go crazy next week, I guess. But I'm willing to get old takes exposed, I guess, for that one. Because right now, I do think the Seahawks run defense is very legit. Like, kudos to the Cardinals, I guess, for believing in James Conner, because they gave him a bag after he had 8 yards. I don't know if you guys saw that. He got paid over the weekend. I'm like, what kind of agent he got? He got paid after rushing for 8 yards in a loss. Like, boy, they must expect him to go off the next week, and then he didn't. I know because my fantasy team tells me so. But anyway, yes, I do think the run game is fixed.
This next one is from Mike Miller. The Seahawks did a good job on defense last week against Kyler Murray. Do you think the Seahawks have the advantage going into their matchup next week against them so soon? Or do the Cardinals have time to adjust their game plan away from what didn't work 2 weeks ago?
I don't think any team is at an advantage or disadvantage. They both played Sunday in the same window. I think they were both on the road, too. Were the Cardinals in Minnesota? Is that right? I believe so.
Correct.
Yeah. So they both had to travel. So there's no advantage there. Yeah, I think it's about even. The only thing that maybe could work in the Cardinals' favor is that they're probably in the mode that the Seahawks were in coming out of the bye, which they're a little desperate. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost first place in the division. They're back at the crib. The last 2 games have been on the road, so they could potentially be the hungrier team on Sunday. Next Sunday, we'll see. But no, I don't think there's any schematic advantage. What I do think, and Chris mentioned it earlier, the Cardinals are probably gonna, like, if they didn't have someone at practice wearing a different color jersey that says 99 on it last time, they almost certainly will this week. There will be a big 99 little penny jersey on somebody this week, and they will be sliding all protections his way. Double teams will be going his way. But the good thing is, I'm sure Grubb knows that. And that's when you tell the other guys, look, Leo is basically about to be Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, and assist to you guys. Show up. You're going to get your one-on-ones this week. You go to Byron, you go to Jay Reed, you go to Boye, D-Hall, be like, look, Draymond, you're going to get your one-on-ones this week because they're going to be sliding everything to Leonard. And you go from there. So, I said Grubb. That's a Mike Macdonald thing. But Mike Macdonald's so good at messing with protections, boy, he might have Kyler in hell. We'll see. But no, I don't think any team has the advantage. If anything, maybe the Seahawks actually have that schematic advantage because they know that the Cardinals are going to perhaps over-adjust to trying to stop Leonard. Because if you don't, then you're stupid because Leonard's killing it. Like, you got to start treating him like Aaron Donald, for real. And if you don't, you're probably going to lose.
Kim Will Santana drops in. How far can the Seahawks defense take the team if nothing changes on offense?
This is a good one. I actually think that if nothing was to change on offense, I don't even think the Seahawks will win the division. I just don't think this is particularly sustainable to just keep asking the defense to score points. Like it's just not. Like, what was the score of the game when Kobe got the pick six? I think it was like 7-6 or something.
No, 7. Oh, was it
To
7 to
3?
6?
It was 7-3. I think Kobe's
Oh, it was
pick six made it 13-3.
okay. Yeah, that's right. So it must have been 7 to 6. Yeah, because his pick six made it 13-3. Then they kicked the field goal 16-6. So yeah.
It was 7-3 at the time. Yeah. So JSN had scored a touchdown. But either way, they just hadn't scored many points, is the gist of why I brought that up. So yeah, I just don't think that's sustainable. I don't think you can keep winning games when you can't score over 20. And they've got some good teams coming up. The Cardinals are not bad. Like the Cardinals are fine. And like I said, the Vikings are a good team. I'll put them in that category. I put the Packers in that category, So I really think that those two games are going to be critical, both at the crib. If the offense doesn't change a thing, I would still be very concerned about that. You got to be able to score points in this league, man. The defense is playing super well, and I'm willing to talk them up and Leo and everything, but there are limitations. There are limitations to that when the rest of the team is not holding up its end of the bargain, which almost happened today. Thankfully, Geno didn't turn it over and the offense didn't, but then the special teams, like everyone is keep asking the defense to win all these games for them. And they're doing it so far, but that's just hard. It's hard to do, especially against the good teams they have remaining on their schedule. So the answer to your question is not very far. They do need the offense to catch up in a major way, starting on Sunday against Arizona.
Holly, she wants to know: were you at any point while watching the game thinking Hawks might end up choking?
Yeah, I think after the Laviska fumble that he lost, I was like, oh, yep, I've seen this before. Seahawks losing to a bad team. It's like they lost to that Raiders team in 2022, lost to the Panthers in 2022. Last year, lost to the Steelers in 2023. They might have had another bad one last year. Lost to the Giants this year. I was like, yep, that was it. I was like, yep, they're not locked in. It's going to be too much to overcome because then I think they got down to the red zone, and that was before Leo's pick six. So I felt all of that until the pick six. Like it was up until then, I was like, oh, the game. This is a normal game again. Well, normal in the Seahawks terms. That game was drunk. That game was super drunk. I can't imagine being a Seahawks fan that stressed at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, dog. That had to be so awful for you guys. I'm so sorry. At least you won. But yeah, up until the pick six, I was like, yeah, this might be cooked, man. This might be cooked. Because I think one of the reasons I felt that is because I just wasn't sure how well they would move the ball. I knew Sauce is good, DJ's good. I just trusted the Jets defense to put up a fight, and it did. But then eventually Sauce got hurt, and it was whatever. But yeah, I until the pick six, I was like, Colt McCoy game all over again, boys. Gonna be a long flight back. As soon as he got the pick six, though, I was like, oh yeah, we got action. Felt fine.
Believe it or not, I was more curious to see how the Jets are going to blow it because when we had on Zach Rosenblatt, Zach Rosenblatt. I was just thinking about what he was talking about with the offense, and they just weren't consistent. They couldn't run the football. In my head, I'm thinking there's got to be a world where everything's going wrong with the Seahawks, but they find a way to stay in the game. And sure enough, when I got the pick six, in my head, I said, yeah, the Jets are going to lose this game. I don't know how, but I figured they're probably going to lose. And I didn't text Mike and say, I think the Jets are going to lose this. I wasn't like crystal balling it, but in my head, watching the game, I'm thinking the Seahawks still have a chance. And I kept telling myself the Jets are just terrible. And in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, I said, yeah, the Jets are probably going to lose this game. I can see it happening. I just don't see them marching down the field and scoring a touchdown. Despite number 29, Josh Jobe, getting a workout on Sunday, I'm sure he's going to be sore because, boy, were they just targeting him and using him. But the Seahawks adjusted to put a safety over the top. As Mike mentioned earlier on the show, you want to run go balls? Cool. We're just going to put a guy over there, and you're going to have to beat two dudes at the same time. And Aaron Rodgers missed a couple of throws. I just wasn't confident that the Jets were going to close it out. So, Holly, I'll be honest, that's how bad the Jets are. I got so confident that I almost tweeted out that I know Michael Dixon was hurt, but Mike Macdonald was in his head probably thinking the Jets offense is so bad, I'm not even worried about it. I'm going to just go for it on 4th and 6. I'm not worried. That's how terrible the Jets were. It was to a point where maybe Mike Macdonald's sick mind, he just believed that there's no way the Jets are scoring a touchdown. Like, let's just go for it on 4th and 6. Come on, see what we got. Throw it out there. So, yeah, I was more on the optimistic side regarding the Seahawks in that game against the Jets. This last one comes from Michael Scott. If you could erase your memories to be able to watch a movie for the first time again, what movie would you pick? I got mine. Mike, what's yours, man?
Go first because I have two I'm deciding between.
Okay, I'm gonna go with my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. Give me Rush Hour 2. I just need that all over again. I want to laugh. I want to have a good time. Oh, Rush Hour 2, without a question. That was as soon as I saw that question, that was the first movie that came to my mind. I was like, yep, I'd have to just relive that classic. I could watch that 1,000 times and still laugh at every funny scene in that movie and learn something new as well, which is crazy.
Man, this is so tough. There's so many in my mind. All right. So I'm gonna pick a comedy and an action movie. Can I do that?
Yeah, do what you want. You good?
Okay, my comedy movie is 40-Year-Old Virgin. It gets the slight nod over Talladega Nights. There's just something like 40-Year-Old Virgin is just so fun. Like if I could just go through it again and not know the jokes before they're coming, like I laugh hysterically. Like you said, I laugh hysterically now, even though I've seen 40-Year-Old Virgin so many times. Like when Kevin Hart comes in there arguing with Romney Malco about whatever they was arguing about, like I lose it. When the drunk girl drives him home singing Missy Elliott and then throws up on Steve Carell. Oh my god, yeah, I lose it. So that's my comedy joint. My action one. So I was torn, but I'm gonna go with Training Day with Denzel Washington. Like, cause you just watch that movie. At least me, I watched it not thinking Denzel's the bad guy. And then when you finally realize he is the bad guy the whole time, it was, for me personally, it was just like, oh my God. Like that was just mind blowing. And one of the best performances I've seen by any actor ever. That one slightly beats out Den of Thieves, the heist movie starring Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., and Gerard Butler. It's just on my mind because they dropped the trailer for Den of Thieves 2, and I've already watched it like 50 million times. So I just rewatched Den of Thieves. But yeah, like, for everybody who's seen the you guys know I'm big on heist movies too. Like watching Den of Thieves for the first time, oh my God. You get to the end and it's like, what? All those little clues. Oh, it was incredible. So yeah, those are I guess I just kind of named 4 movies, but still, I don't know. It's our show. We can do what we want. Chris, can I share one thing from the game? Did I say the thing about Lake and Tomlinson live, or was that before we recorded? I want to share that before we go.
Share it now because you didn't do it live.
I didn't do it live. Okay, so you mentioned that they had no punter at the end of the game because Michael Dixon got hurt. He said his back is okay, but we'll see. A cross country flight is not what you need when you have a bad back. So hopefully Dixon's okay. But anyway, so apparently, Geno knew that Michael Dixon was hurt on that final drive. I was asking guys on offense. Apparently everyone didn't know. So Ken Walker was like, to be honest, bro, I didn't even know till he went for it the second time. he said Jason Myers came up and was like, man, I got to punt. And Ken was like, why are you punting? He was like, Mike's back is hurt. He's like, oh, damn, we ain't got no punter. And that was, I think, midway through the drive. He said after they went for it the second time. And then DK was like, I didn't even know till after the game. Till coach gave Michael Dixon the game ball and was like, oh, damn, he wasn't good. And then same thing with Lake and Tomlinson. He was like, I honestly did not know. And I asked Lake, and I was like, so when you went for it on 4th and 6 at your own 30, you thought Grubb was just like F it. And he was like, I just thought Grubb was dropping his nuts. I didn't know. I just run the plays that's called. I'm not supposed to second guess them. I just do my job.
Oh man.
I thought that was so hilarious. So, and I think all those dudes are telling the truth too. I don't think any of those dudes are lying, especially Ken, because Ken was like, yeah, he's like, I really didn't know, man. See J-Mike warming up. I'm like, yo, what you mean you punting? And so I thought that was really funny that not everyone knew that they just were in a no punt mode, which makes sense because they were down in the 4th quarter. So you really don't want to punt anyway. But it was very funny that those guys were not aware that Michael Dixon physically was not able to punt. I just wanted to share that, especially Lakin, because Lakin was like, man, I just thought we were dropping our nuts. Oh, that was funny. And they kind of were, because Jason Myers could have punted if they really needed him to, but Mike Macdonald was like, nah, let's drop our nuts. So shout out to Mike Macdonald and Ryan Grubb.
Well, we want to shout out to each and every single one of you for listening and watching our Seahawks Man to Man show. We appreciate all the love and support. We will come back on Tuesday with, well, actually, it'll be Wednesday for you guys, but we will come back on Wednesday with our one big thing and our preview. Or maybe, do we want to preview, Mike? Considering you're muted, by the way, if you do speak.
Yeah, let me reach out to our Arizona dude, and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, but yeah,
We'll
we wanna
definitely have a
appreciate-
show Wednesday, no matter what it is.
Yes, that is true. But appreciate all the love and support, Mike. Is there anything you want to add before we shake? Because what time is it over there? 10:15. I know you about to probably go to bed soon after watching some games and film.
Yeah, 6 a.m. flight. I might just miss that on purpose, to be honest, man. I need some sleep. Nah, I gotta get back to the family. Thank you guys. Subscribe on YouTube, every audio platform. Make sure you share, comments. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. The last thing. Oh, I'm still trying to figure out Blue Sky, but I promise I will make up at least one post this week. I promise you. All right. Until then, like Chris said, we'll catch you Wednesday. We'll at least have our one big thing. Probably do Arizona preview too. But either way, Wednesday we'll have our next show. Until then, enjoy your week. Have fun. Thank you for listening. Peace.